This is the all-new Genesis GV80, a highly anticipated product from Genesis. The brand is only 4 years old as a separate standalone luxury brand from Hyundai, and they've brought out cars that have been recognized around the world, like the G70 winning North American Car of the Year and so on. Now this is what they claim is the very first clean sheet Genesis design, and really an indication of what we're going to see in the future. It certainly is a striking looking utility vehicle based on the G80 mid-sized luxury sedan with sweeping lines. The most noticeable character feature of Genesis cars, and what you're going to see throughout the range, are the two lines in the headlamps that go down the side and then connect again at the rear at the tail lamps. That's a signature of Genesis. Then the big grille. Now, a lot of people joked about the G90 grille being so big that you just need to put a big S in the middle for the Superman crest. You decide whether you like it or not. I think it's a nice looking utility vehicle. Now I'm going to get in and I'm going to do my review, but I have a question for you. So Genesis thinks this is kind of in between. Their 5-passenger models, they really believe compete against cars like the X5 and the GLE from Mercedes-Benz. But this is also available with 3 rows and 7 passengers. So what do you think? Do you think it competes against the MDX, maybe the QX60 from Infiniti, the Q7 obviously from Audi, or is it more the traditional mid-size utility space? That's the question I have for you. Let's get in, go for a drive.
This video is brought to you by Car Cost Canada. Get the dealer's cost, list of rebates, plus discounted interest rates. Use the promo code MOTORMOUTH to become an expert member and get extra searches. The link is in the description below.
Well, welcome to the inside of the GV80. The one you're looking at here now is the top trim level. In the Canadian market, it's $85,000. It has some unique features. I'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, I want to pick up on the outside where we were talking about it for a moment. They're really trying to get this across, and you're going to see it with the refreshed G70 next year, and there's going to be a smaller compact utility called the GV70 to follow up on this larger utility. So those parallel lines you see in the headlamps down the side and the back, that's the Genesis signature, the cross-hatched grille, and it's mirrored throughout the car, not only on these beautifully quilted seats on the top trim, but even on the wheels, you get a little bit of that crosshatch, and it shows up throughout the cabin, even on the speaker grills. So it's another theme that they have for Genesis when it comes to design. I think this is a really nice looking product. It's got a very Germanic look to it. Obviously, a lot of people know about the history of Peter Schreier, formerly of Audi, going over to Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, and you can see a lot of sort of Germanic influence in this, and that's good, but when you get inside, it's a real showstopper interior, especially the screen. This is the largest horizontal screen in the industry, 14.5 inches. Most of the top-end vehicles, when they have a horizontal screen like BMW, what have you, it's 12.3 inches. This is 14.5 inches. This one is the top trim that gives you the Napa leather with the quilting, open pore wood. But the good news is a panoramic roof is standard on every single trim, and the seat patterns and materials are different as well. So leather, except on the base, you get faux leather with different patterns depending on the trim. Now, I have been on record talking about Hyundai and Kia products over the last few years. We're not talking about Genesis, just the mainline cars. The interior fit and finish on those products is, in my opinion, right at the very top of the market. All you need to do is look at the Telluride and the Palisade from the mainline brands to see the quality of interiors that they're doing. And then you go to the top premium brand, Genesis, and it takes it to a whole other level. For example, full leather instrument panel with that big, beautiful screen, big, wide center console. It's minimalist, but luxurious at the same time. So that big screen, as I mentioned, is standard equipment. What you have with this top trim is a 3D instrument cluster. And when I first drove it, I'm like, that's wild. Is that 3D? And it actually has eye tracking, and it's projecting a different image to your left and right eye. So sometimes when you look at it quickly, it looks 2D, and then it pops into this 3D. It's not distracting. It's quite pleasing and very, very cool. I like that. What I don't love is this infotainment controller wheel and the infotainment system. I've been driving this for a couple of days. I'm getting better at it. I am learning kind of how it works, but it's not as intuitive as some other products. For example, when you hit the home button, you just get this landscape of a city projected on the screen. Typically home gets you to all the tiles that you can operate. Now you have to actually turn the wheel and then you see all the different tiles, whether it's navigation, your radio, your phone, what have you. Now that's something I've learned and now I've gotten used to it. So it's good, but it's not great. That is something that you're going to have to practice if you get this product. All right, now we're going to start driving, and this is the top model, and it has the more powerful 3.5 liter turbo 6-cylinder twin turbo, and it's got a lot of power and a lot of jump out of the gate. Okay, let's do an acceleration here. Twin turbo, 3.5 liter twin turbo, 375 horsepower, 391 pound-feet of torque. That's a healthy engine. Sounds pretty good as well. It's got an 8-speed automatic transmission and an all-wheel drive system. It's basically using the same Magna system that they have in the G70, but it has the ability with this system to send up to 100% of the power to the rear wheels. It even has the ability to send 100% of the power to just one wheel. So this is an advanced rear wheel bias all-wheel drive system, and that's good. That's what people are looking for. So the maximum torque you can send to the front wheels on this system is just 50%. So it really is a rear bias system. So all but the model I'm driving here come with a passive spring and shock. If you get this top trim, you actually have an adaptive spring and shock system, but it also has a forward predictive camera system. So it's looking down the road, looking for imperfections on the road, and softening for bumps as you come up to them. So that adaptive suspension, unfortunately, is kept only for this top $85,000 Canadian model. And also, if you get the 3.5 liter twin turbo 6-cylinder, the top models, it also comes with a noise canceling system developed by Harman Kardon, and Genesis claims it's a first. And what it does is it has sensors in the suspension and then microphones by every single person's head inside the cabin. And what it does is in a microsecond, it adjusts sort of the resonant noise that the sensors are picking up in the suspension and then try to cancel the sound out as you're driving down the road. That's pretty cool technology. Once again, only on this top trim. So my initial reaction to driving this is it has a real quality feel to it. It has the feeling of a European, German kind of product. I mean, if you took the Genesis off the steering wheel here and you put on Audi or BMW or something else, I would say, yeah, that's kind of how it drives, except that they're doing it with a different kind of level of interior finish and sophistication. So when I first saw this GV80, I thought direct competitors would be 3-row utilities like the MDX, the QX60 from Infiniti, and the most obvious one to me was the Q7 from Audi. But actually on dimensions, the Audi Q7 is 12 centimeters, that's quite a lot, longer than this vehicle. So Genesis believes this is kind of a tweener. It competes with typical mid-size luxury utilities, but they offer the 3rd row as an option. Now I think as a brand that's new and still trying to make a name for itself, I think they should offer the 3rd row of seats as standard equipment, because if you get the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, you don't get even an option to get the 3rd row of seats. The base model of the larger 3.5 liter twin turbo is $80,000 in Canada. So you've got to spend $80,000 to get a 3rd row in a mid-size utility from a brand that's only 4 years old. So yeah, this is beautifully done. It's a nice looking car. It's all of that. But I think that really to get people to try your product and to compete with best sellers in this category, like the Acura MDX, and they've got a new one coming out in the next few months that looks pretty good. I think that Genesis really needs to add that 3rd row of seats with the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. And speaking of that, I'm going to swap out and I'm going to get into that one and figure it out. Okay, now we're in the base 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder, and the power out of this engine is actually on par with a lot of the competitors that use naturally aspirated 6-cylinder engines. For example, the MDX has a 3.5-liter 6-cylinder with 290 horsepower. This 4-cylinder turbo has 300 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque. So we're seeing this in the entire industry, downsizing of engines and turbocharging them to give you equal power to what you used to get with larger displacement engines. So I'm okay with that if it all comes together and delivers the goods, and so far, so good. I mean, it can get a little buzzier, for example, passing on the highway, but for the average person commuting to work and doing their everyday functions, absolutely acceptable. Now, the version I just drove with the 3.5-liter twin turbo, the top 2 trims, it gets active noise canceling on the top trim and also that adaptive suspension. So this doesn't have either of those, but the suspension is a bit of a Goldilocks. It's doing a good job of being, you know, luxurious enough, but also good feedback. The all-wheel drive system is certainly helping with that. And it doesn't have the noise canceling, and it's not loud either. So good job. I think they've done a great job. It is a very German feel yet again. It has a German kind of car feel to it, and I think that's what they're going after. And they're also going after them on price. So why was that G70 a couple of years ago so popular? Well, first of all, good looking car, great handling car, but it offered a lot of value. And that's where I kind of differ with the plan with this particular product. So this GV80 in Canada is sold with 4 trims, 2 with the 4-cylinder and 2 with the 6-cylinder. So it starts at $65,000 and it goes up in increments of $5,000. So $65,000 for the base model. The one I'm driving right now is $70,000. You get the bigger wheels on the outside, for example. Then you go into the 6-cylinder turbo, $80,000. That gets you the 3rd row of seats and the more powerful engine. And the wheel sizes on that go all the way up to 22 inches. And then the top prestige version, the one I was just driving, is $85,000. So the story that Genesis had with the G70 of offering a lot of content, but also offering a lot of value, they're competing now with much more established luxury brands. Brands like Mercedes-Benz, the oldest car company in the world, with the 3-pointed star on the hood, means something. Does Genesis mean enough to enough people to justify the prices they're asking for this? It's certainly a good-looking vehicle. It's beautifully done on the inside. It drives well. It's got engine options. But I think that the pricing is a little out of whack for this, and that's my opinion. So my questions are back to you. Who do you think this competes against? As I mentioned, it's not as big as a Q7. It's about the same size as an X5. It's got the engine choices that I mentioned. It's got the features that I mentioned. Does it compete enough on price to get people to try this over established brands? That's the big question. There will certainly be people that take them up on their offer and say, yeah, I'll try a Genesis because I get 5 years of valet service, I get 5 years of maintenance, I get 5 years of everything included. That is going to appeal to people. How many? We'll have to wait and see. But they need to add a 3rd row of seats in this on the base models like yesterday. So after having a chance to drive both engines throughout a couple of days here, I'm mightily impressed by the base 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. For most people, that's going to be plenty enough. The only issue is you can't get it with the 3rd row of seats. So the first SUV from Genesis, I think it's striking on the outside, beautifully appointed on the inside, a fantastic first effort. As I asked you, what do you think of the design, the size, and who do you think it competes with? Comments below.
This video is brought to you by Car Cost Canada. Get the dealer's cost, list of rebates, plus discounted interest rates. Use the promo code MOTORMOUTH to become an expert member and get extra searches. The link is in the description below.